My sister asked to stay with me after her breakup. I said no because of what she did to our little brother. My name is Sophie, and I have spent most of my 23 years trying to make sense of my family. Growing up in a house where love felt conditional and protection was never guaranteed shaped me in ways I am still discovering. I live alone now in a modest one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. The rent takes up nearly half my monthly income from my job at the local library, but I have never been happier to have my own space. The apartment is small but clean, with white walls that I have decorated with framed photos of books and nature scenes. My kitchen table doubles as my desk, and my living room consists of a second-hand couch and a television I bought on sale. It is not much, but it is mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish in my cabinet, every book on my shelves represents hours of work and careful budgeting. I am proud of what I have built for myself. My daily routine is simple and peaceful. I wake up at 6:30 each morning, make coffee in my small French press, and read for 30 minutes before getting ready for work. I walk to the library, where I spend my days helping patrons find books, organizing return materials, and maintaining the quiet order that I have always craved. After work, I come home, cook a simple dinner, and spend my evenings reading or watching documentaries. This quiet life suits me perfectly. I have a few close friends from college who I see occasionally, but mostly I enjoy my solitude. After growing up in a house filled with conflict and drama, the peace of my own space feels like a luxury I never want to take for granted. Last Tuesday evening, I was reading on my couch when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my sister Rose's name, which immediately made me tense. Rose and I do not talk often, maybe once every few months, and usually only when she needs something or when our parents pressure one of us to reach out. "Hey, Sophie," Rose said when I answered. Her voice sounded tired and shaky. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "What's up?" I asked, setting down my book. "I was wondering if I could ask you a favor," she said. "Derek and I broke up yesterday, and I really don't want to be alone right now. Would it be okay if I stayed with you for a few weeks, just until I figure out what I'm doing next?" Derek was Rose's boyfriend of 3 years. They had been living together in a nice apartment across town, and from what I had heard through family conversations, their relationship had been pretty serious. I was surprised to hear they had broken up, but I was not surprised that Rose was asking to stay with me rather than with our parents. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said carefully. "Please, Sophie," Rose said, and I could hear her starting to cry. "I just need somewhere to stay for a little while. I can't go back to Mom and Dad's house. You know how they are." I did know how our parents were. Our mother Linda was dramatic and overwhelming, always inserting herself into situations where she did not belong. Our father Mike was emotionally absent, preferring to hide behind his newspaper or television rather than deal with family conflicts. Living with them as an adult would be suffocating for anyone. "I understand that you're going through a hard time," I said, "but I really don't think it would work out." "Why not?" Rose asked, her voice becoming sharper. "You have a couch, don't you? I'm not asking for much." "It's not about the space," I said. "Then what is it about?" Rose demanded. I took a deep breath. "I just don't think we would be compatible as roommates." "Compatible?" Rose laughed bitterly. "Sophie, I'm your sister, we're family." "I know we're family," I said, "but that doesn't mean we have to live together." There was a long pause. "This is about Ethan, isn't it?" Rose said finally. "Ethan is our younger brother, 21 years old now and thriving in his second year of college. He is studying computer science and working part-time at a local tech repair shop. He is funny, intelligent, and kind, with a gentle nature that has always made him easy to love. He is also the reason I could never comfortably live with Rose." "This is about a lot of things," I said. "You're still mad about stuff that happened when we were kids," Rose said. "That's ridiculous, Sophie, we were children." "Some of us were," I said quietly. "What is that supposed to mean?" I closed my eyes and tried to find the right words. "It means that Ethan was a child, a little boy who deserved to feel safe and loved in his own home." "Oh, come on," Rose said. "You're being so dramatic, all siblings fight." "What you did to Ethan wasn't fighting," I said. "It was bullying." Rose was quiet for a moment. "I can't believe you're still holding on to this." "I'm not holding on to anything," I said. "I'm just not comfortable living with you." "Fine," Rose said, her voice cold now. "I should have known better than to ask you for help." She hung up before I could respond. I sat on my couch for a long time after that phone call, remembering things I had tried to forget. Rose is 5 years older than me and 7 years older than Ethan. When I was little, I thought she was the coolest person in the world. She was confident and outgoing, always the center of attention at family gatherings. She had beautiful long brown hair and bright green eyes that made everyone pay attention when she spoke. But Rose had a dark side that she reserved especially for Ethan. Even when he was very young, maybe 4 or 5 years old, she would find ways to make him feel small and unwanted. She would exclude him from games, tell him he was too little to participate in family activities, and blame him for things that went wrong around the house. Our parents, Linda and Mike, seemed oblivious to what was happening. They saw Rose as their responsible older daughter and Ethan as their sweet, but sometimes difficult youngest child. When Rose complained about Ethan's behavior, they believed her without question. When Ethan tried to defend himself, they told him not to make excuses. As we got older, Rose's treatment of Ethan became more systematic and cruel. She would wait until our parents were out of the room, then say things to him that would make him cry. She would hide his toys, tear up his drawings, and tell him that Mom and Dad wished he had never been born. I remember one afternoon when Ethan was about 8 years old. He had been working on a puzzle at the kitchen table, something with dinosaurs that he had been excited about all week. Rose came into the kitchen and, without any provocation, swept the puzzle pieces onto the floor. "Why did you do that?" Ethan asked, tears already forming in his eyes. "Because you're in my way," Rose said casually, "and because I felt like it." Ethan got down on his hands and knees to collect the pieces, some of which had scattered under the refrigerator and cabinets. I helped him gather them while Rose watched with a satisfied smile. "Don't tell Mom and Dad," Rose said to both of us. "If you do, I'll tell them you were bothering me." This was always her threat. She would torment Ethan, then warn him not to tell our parents or she would get him in trouble. And it always worked, because our parents always believed Rose's version of events. The incident I will never forget happened during the winter when Ethan was 10 years old. It was a Saturday afternoon in February, and the temperature outside was below freezing. Snow had been falling all morning and the wind was howling against our windows. Ethan had been playing quietly in the living room with his action figures when Rose came downstairs. She was in a bad mood because her plans to go to the mall with her friends had been cancelled due to the weather. "Move," she said to Ethan. "I want to watch TV." "I'm not in front of the TV," Ethan said reasonably. "I'm just playing on the floor." "You're being loud," Rose said, "and you're annoying me." "I'm not being loud," Ethan protested. "I'm just playing." Rose grabbed his action figures and threw them into the toy box. "Go play in your room." "But I was here first," Ethan said. That was when Rose lost her temper. She grabbed Ethan by the arm and dragged him toward the back door. "If you want to act like a baby, you can go outside and cool off," she said. "No, Rose, please," Ethan said. "It's cold outside." But Rose was already opening the door and pushing him out onto the back porch. I heard the door slam and the sound of the lock clicking. I was upstairs in my room doing homework when I heard Ethan crying and knocking on the door. I ran downstairs to find Rose settled on the couch with the television turned up loud. "Where's Ethan?" I asked. "Outside," Rose said without looking away from the screen. "Outside, it's freezing out there." "He'll be fine," Rose said. "Maybe he'll learn not to be so annoying." I went to the back door and looked out. Ethan was standing on the porch in just his t-shirt and jeans, hugging himself and shivering. His lips were turning blue and his hands were bright red from the cold. "Let me in," he was saying through the glass. "Please let me in." "Rose, open the door," I said. "No," Rose said. "He needs to learn a lesson." "He's going to get frostbite," I said. "He's fine," Rose said. "Stop being so dramatic." I tried to open the door myself, but Rose had locked it with the deadbolt that required a key. She had hidden the key somewhere and I could not find it. "Where's the key?" I asked. "I'm not telling you," Rose said. For nearly an hour, I watched my little brother stand on that porch in the freezing cold while Rose played video games and ignored his cries. Our parents were at the grocery store, and I had no way to reach them. I tried calling our neighbors, but no one answered their phones. Finally, I found the spare key that our parents kept hidden under a flower pot. By the time I got Ethan inside, his hands were so cold they were almost white. He was shivering uncontrollably, and I could barely understand what he was saying through his chattering teeth. I wrapped him in blankets and made him hot chocolate while Rose continued to play her game as if nothing had happened. When our parents came home, Rose told them that Ethan had been outside playing and had come in on his own. "He should have been wearing a coat," our mother said. "Ethan, you know better than to go outside without proper clothes." I tried to tell them what had really happened, but Rose interrupted me. "Sophie's just trying to get me in trouble," she said. Ethan was being dramatic because he wanted attention. Our parents believed her, as they always did. Ethan looked at me with tears in his eyes, and I saw something break in his expression. It was the moment he realized that no one was going to protect him. The incident with the locked door was not an isolated event. It was part of a pattern of behavior that Rose had established over years of systematically breaking down Ethan's sense of self-worth and belonging in our family. What made it even more painful was how skilled she was at hiding her cruelty from our parents. Rose had perfected the art of psychological manipulation. She would wait until our parents were distracted or absent, then unleash her cruelty on Ethan. If he cried or complained, she would comfort him just long enough to make him think she was sorry, then hurt him again as soon as he let his guard down. I remember one evening when Ethan was about 11 years old. He had been working on a school project about space exploration, something he was genuinely excited about. He had spent weeks collecting pictures and information, carefully arranging everything in a presentation folder. He was so proud of his work that he showed it to everyone who would listen. Rose seemed interested when Ethan first showed her the project. She asked questions and even complimented some of his drawings. Ethan was thrilled to have her attention and approval, something he rarely received from her. The next morning, Ethan woke up to find his project destroyed. Someone had torn out the pages, crumpled them up, and scattered them around his room. Years of work was ruined, and he had to present his project to the class that day. "Who did this?" our mother Linda asked when she saw Ethan crying over the destroyed papers. "I don't know," Ethan said through his tears. "It was perfect yesterday, and now it's ruined." "Maybe you left your window open and the wind blew it around," Rose suggested helpfully. "Or maybe you were sleepwalking and messed it up yourself." "I didn't do this," Ethan said desperately. "Someone else did it." "Who would want to destroy your project?" our father Mike asked. "That doesn't make sense." Rose put her arm around Ethan's shoulders in a gesture that looked loving but felt sinister to me. "Maybe you just forgot that you were reorganizing it," she said gently. "You know how you sometimes get confused about things." I watched as Ethan's face crumpled. He knew exactly who had destroyed his project, but he also knew that no one would believe him if he accused Rose. She had been so careful to establish herself as the caring older sister, while painting him as the confused and unreliable younger brother. "I'll help you put it back together," I offered, but there was not enough time. Ethan had to go to school and present his destroyed project, receiving a failing grade that hurt his overall performance in the class. That evening, I found Rose in her room, looking satisfied with herself. "I know you destroyed Ethan's project," I said. Rose looked up from her magazine with an innocent expression. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You know exactly what I'm talking about," I said. "You waited until he was proud of something, then you ruined it." "That's a serious accusation," Rose said calmly. "Do you have any proof?" I did not have proof, and Rose knew it. She had been careful to destroy the project while everyone was sleeping, and she had disposed of the evidence. All I had was my certainty that she was responsible. "Why do you hate him so much?" I asked. Rose's mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. "I don't hate him," she said. "I just think he needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around him." "He's 11 years old," I said. "He's just a kid." "He's old enough to stop being such a baby," Rose said. "Maybe if people stopped coddling him, he would grow up." "Nobody coddles him," I said. "If anything, he gets less attention than the rest of us." Rose shrugged. "That's not my problem." This was the attitude that Rose maintained throughout our childhood. She seemed to genuinely believe that Ethan deserved whatever treatment she gave him, and she was skilled at convincing our parents that her actions were justified. The psychological impact on Ethan was devastating. He became increasingly withdrawn and anxious. He would flinch when Rose entered a room, and he stopped sharing his accomplishments or interests with the family. He seemed to expect that anything good in his life would be taken away or destroyed. I started spending more time with Ethan, trying to provide some buffer between him and Rose. I would invite him to hang out in my room, help him with his homework, and listen when he needed to talk. But I was only a teenager myself, and I did not have the power to truly protect him from Rose's cruelty. The situation became even more complicated when our parents began to see Ethan's withdrawn behavior as a problem that needed to be corrected. They would encourage him to be more outgoing, to participate more in family activities, and to stop being so sensitive. They could not see that his behavior was a natural response to being constantly undermined and attacked. "Ethan needs to toughen up," our father Mike would say. "The world is not going to coddle him forever. He's just going through a phase," our mother Linda would add. "He'll grow out of it." But Rose's treatment of Ethan was not something he could simply grow out of. It was shaping his fundamental understanding of his place in the world and his worth as a person. One of the most painful aspects of watching this dynamic was seeing how desperately Ethan wanted Rose's approval. Despite everything she did to him, he still craved her attention and validation. He would light up when she showed him even the smallest kindness, and he would be devastated when she inevitably turned cruel again. I remember one Christmas when Ethan was about 12 years old. He had saved up his allowance money for months to buy Rose a present. He had chosen a beautiful silver bracelet that he thought she would love, and he was so excited to give it to her. On Christmas morning, Ethan proudly presented the bracelet to Rose. She opened it with our parents watching, and for a moment she seemed genuinely touched. "Thank you, Ethan," she said, giving him a hug. "It's beautiful." Ethan beamed with happiness. He had finally done something that made Rose happy, and he was thrilled to have pleased her. But the next day I found the bracelet in the trash can in Rose's room. She had thrown it away without a second thought, and when I asked her about it, she just shrugged. "It was ugly," she said. "I didn't want it." "You could have told him you didn't like it," I said. "You didn't have to throw it away." "Why should I have to wear something ugly just to spare his feelings?" Rose asked. "He'll get over it." But Ethan did not get over it. When he realized that Rose had thrown away his gift, he stopped trying to please her. He stopped seeking her approval and started avoiding her entirely. It was a form of self-protection, but it also marked the beginning of his complete withdrawal from the family. The damage Rose inflicted on Ethan was not just emotional. It had real consequences for his development and his ability to form relationships. He became suspicious of kindness, expecting that any positive attention would be followed by cruelty. He had trouble trusting people and struggled with feelings of worthlessness that would follow him into adulthood. I did my best to counteract some of this damage. I made sure Ethan knew that I loved him and that he was valuable. I celebrated his accomplishments and supported him through his difficulties. But I was fighting against years of systematic psychological abuse, and my efforts could only do so much. As I got older and began to understand the full scope of what Rose had done to Ethan, I felt a growing sense of responsibility. I had witnessed the abuse, and while I had tried to intervene when I could, I had not been able to stop it. This knowledge would stay with me for the rest of my life. When I finally moved out of our parents' house at 18, one of my first priorities was creating a safe space for Ethan. I knew he still had 3 more years of high school, and I wanted to give him a refuge from Rose's ongoing torment. "Would you like to spend weekends with me sometimes?" I asked him during one of our phone conversations. "Really?" Ethan asked, and I could hear the hope in his voice. "Of course," I said. "I would love to have you visit." Those weekend visits became a lifeline for both of us. Ethan would arrive at my apartment on Friday evenings, and I would watch him physically relax as he settled into my safe space. We would cook dinner together, watch movies, and talk about everything and nothing. For a few days, he could be himself without fear of judgment or attack. During these visits, I began to see glimpses of the person Ethan could be when he was not constantly defending himself. He was funny and creative, with a quick wit and a generous heart. He had interests and dreams that he had learned to keep hidden at home. Slowly, he began to trust that my apartment was a place where he could be vulnerable without being hurt. The weekend visits with Ethan became the highlight of my month. Every other Friday, I would drive to our parents' house to pick him up, and I would see him waiting by the window with his overnight bag packed and ready. The transformation that would come over him during the 30-minute drive to my apartment was remarkable. His shoulders would relax, his smile would become genuine, and he would start talking about things he was interested in rather than just surviving. My apartment became our sanctuary. I had decorated it with care, choosing warm colors and soft textures that made the space feel welcoming and safe. I had a small bookshelf filled with novels and graphic novels that I thought Ethan might enjoy, and I always made sure to have his favorite snacks in the kitchen. These were small gestures, but they seemed to mean everything to him. "I wish I could live here all the time," Ethan told me one Saturday morning as we made pancakes together. "I wish you could too," I said, flipping a pancake in the pan, "but you know you're always welcome here." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "It's just hard to go back sometimes." I understood what he meant. During our weekends together, Ethan would slowly open up about what was happening at home. Rose had not stopped her cruel behavior just because I had moved out. If anything, she had intensified her focus on him now that I was not there to witness it. She had developed new tactics that were even more sophisticated than her childhood bullying. She would undermine his confidence by making subtle comments about his appearance, his intelligence, and his social skills. She would accidentally ruin his belongings or forget to give him important messages. She would exclude him from family activities by claiming there was not enough room or that he would not be interested. Yesterday she told Mom and Dad that I didn't want to go to Uncle Ray's birthday party, Ethan told me one evening. She said I was too antisocial and that I would just make everyone uncomfortable. Did you tell them that wasn't true? I asked. Ethan shook his head. What's the point? They believe whatever she says. This was the reality that Ethan faced every day. Rose had spent years establishing herself as the reliable narrator of family events while positioning Ethan as unreliable and difficult. Even when he tried to defend himself, our parents would dismiss his concerns as oversensitivity or attention-seeking behavior. The psychological impact of this constant gaslighting was severe. Ethan began to doubt his own perceptions and memories. He would question whether something had really happened or whether he had imagined it. He developed anxiety and depression, and his grades at school began to suffer. I feel like I'm going crazy sometimes, he confided to me one night. Like maybe I really am as messed up as she says I am. You're not messed up, I told him firmly. You're a good person who has been treated badly. There's a difference. How do you know? Ethan asked. Because I've seen how you are when you're not around her, I said. You're kind and funny and smart. You're creative and thoughtful. You're everything a person should be. These conversations were heartbreaking, but they were also important. Ethan needed to hear that his experiences were real and that his feelings were valid. He needed someone to witness his pain and to affirm that he deserved better treatment. As Ethan got older, he began to develop his own coping strategies. He spent more time at friends' houses, joined clubs at school, and found ways to avoid being alone with Rose. He also began to understand that her behavior was not normal or acceptable, which gave him some psychological distance from her attacks. I used to think that maybe I deserved it, he told me during his senior year of high school. Like maybe I really was annoying or difficult, and she was just trying to help me. And now? I asked. Now I know that's not true, Ethan said. Nobody deserves to be treated the way she treated me. Even if I had been annoying, which I wasn't, that wouldn't justify what she did. This realization was a turning point for Ethan. He began to see Rose's behavior as a reflection of her own problems rather than evidence of his unworthiness. He started to reclaim his sense of self and to build his confidence independently of her approval or disapproval. When Ethan graduated from high school, he made a decision that surprised everyone except me. He chose to attend a college that was several states away, despite having been accepted to several excellent schools closer to home. I need to get away, he told me. I need to figure out who I am when she's not around. Our parents were disappointed by his choice, but I was proud of him for recognizing what he needed. Rose, predictably, made the situation about herself. I can't believe he's abandoning the family like this, she said during a family dinner. We've always been so close. I had to bite my tongue to keep from responding to this obvious lie. Rose had never been close to Ethan except when she was tormenting him, but our parents nodded along with her narrative as they always did. The day Ethan left for college was both sad and hopeful. I helped him pack his belongings and drove him to the airport. As we said goodbye, I could see both fear and excitement in his eyes. I'm proud of you, I told him. You're going to do great things. Thank you, Ethan said, hugging me tightly. For everything, I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out, I said. You're stronger than you know. Over the next few months, I watched Ethan transform through our phone calls and video chats. Away from Rose's influence, he began to flourish. He made friends easily, excelled in his classes, and discovered interests and talents that he had never been able to explore at home. He joined the college's computer club and found that he had a natural aptitude for programming. He started volunteering at a local animal shelter and discovered a love for working with rescue dogs. He even began dating, something he had never felt confident enough to do in high school. I feel like I'm becoming myself for the first time, he told me during one of our conversations. Like I'm finally figuring out who I am underneath all the stuff she made me believe about myself. This was exactly what I had hoped would happen. Ethan had needed space and time to heal from the years of psychological abuse he had endured. College provided him with the distance and independence he needed to rebuild his sense of self. Meanwhile, Rose's behavior at home had not improved. With Ethan gone, she had turned some of her attention to criticizing our parents and creating drama around other family members. She had a series of failed relationships and seemed unable to maintain stable friendships. She would come home from work or social events with stories about how everyone else was wrong or unfair to her. I began to see a pattern in Rose's behavior that extended beyond her treatment of Ethan. She seemed to need someone to blame for her problems, and she was skilled at manipulating situations to make herself appear to be the victim. When Ethan was around, he had been her primary target. Now she was spreading her toxicity more broadly. During Ethan's second year of college, he made a decision that I fully supported, but that created a major rift in our family. He announced that he was not coming home for Christmas. "I've been invited to spend the holiday with my roommate Jake's family," he told me during one of our phone calls. "They live in Colorado and they've been really welcoming to me." "That sounds wonderful," I said. "I'm happy that you've found people who treat you well." "I just don't feel ready to deal with Rose yet," Ethan said. "Maybe someday, but not now." "You don't have to justify your decisions to me," I said. "You know what's best for you." But our parents were devastated by Ethan's decision. They could not understand why he would choose to spend Christmas with strangers rather than with his family. Rose, predictably, made the situation about herself. "I can't believe he's still holding grudges about childhood stuff," she said during a family phone call. "We're not kids anymore. He needs to grow up and move on. Maybe he has good reasons for staying away," I suggested carefully. "Like what?" Rose asked. "I've always been a good sister to him." The casual way she rewrote history was breathtaking. Rose seemed to genuinely believe her own revised version of events, or she was so skilled at lying that she could convince herself of anything. "He's being manipulated by his college friends," our mother Linda said. "They're probably telling him that his family is toxic or something. Or maybe he's finally able to see clearly now that he's away from here," I said. This comment did not go over well with our parents. They accused me of encouraging Ethan's rebellious behavior and of being disloyal to the family. But I knew I was doing the right thing by supporting Ethan's decision to protect himself. 3 years had passed since Ethan left for college, and our family had settled into a new normal. Ethan would call me regularly, sharing updates about his classes, his friends, and his growing confidence. He had found a part-time job at a local tech company and was excelling in his computer science program. Most importantly, he seemed happy and at peace with himself. Rose, on the other hand, had continued her pattern of creating drama and conflict wherever she went. She had been through several jobs and multiple relationships, always finding reasons why nothing was ever her fault. She had moved in with her boyfriend Derek about 3 years ago, and for a while, it seemed like she might have found some stability. Derek was a nice enough guy, quiet and patient, though I always wondered how long he would be able to tolerate Rose's behavior. He worked as a mechanic at a local garage and seemed to genuinely care about Rose, despite her flaws. I had met him a few times at family gatherings, and he always seemed a bit overwhelmed by our family dynamics. I was not entirely surprised when Rose called me that Tuesday evening to tell me about their breakup. What did surprise me was her request to stay with me. Rose and I had never been close, even as children. We had very different personalities and interests, and as adults we rarely spoke except at family gatherings. After I hung up from our phone conversation, I sat on my couch thinking about all the reasons why her request was impossible. The practical reasons were obvious. My apartment was small, with only 1 bedroom and a tiny living room. I had carefully arranged my space to suit my solitary lifestyle, and adding another person would disrupt everything I had worked to build. But the practical reasons were not the real issue. The real issue was that I could not separate Rose from the person she had been to Ethan. Every time I looked at her, I saw the cruel teenager who had locked a 10-year-old boy outside in the freezing cold. I saw the person who had systematically destroyed his self-esteem and made him feel worthless for years. More importantly, Rose had never acknowledged what she had done. She had never apologized to Ethan, never shown remorse, and never taken responsibility for the damage she had caused. In her mind, everything that had happened was just normal sibling rivalry, and anyone who thought otherwise was being overly dramatic. The next morning, I called Ethan to tell him about Rose's request. I wanted him to hear it from me rather than from our parents, who would inevitably pressure him to support Rose's version of events. "Hey, Sophie," Ethan said when he answered the phone. His voice was warm and happy the way it always was when we talked. "How are you doing?" "I'm doing well," I said, "but I wanted to talk to you about something. Rose called me last night." There was a pause. "Oh," Ethan said, and I could hear his voice become more guarded. "What did she want?" "She broke up with Derek, and she asked if she could stay with me for a few weeks," I said. I told her no. "Good," Ethan said immediately. "I'm glad you said no." "I wanted you to know because Mom and Dad are probably going to call you about it," I said. "They think I'm being cruel," Ethan sighed. "Of course they do. They always think she's the victim." "How do you feel about it?" I asked. "About her breaking up with Derek?" "Honestly, I feel bad for Derek," Ethan said. "He seemed like a nice guy. I'm not surprised it didn't work out, though. Rose doesn't know how to treat people well." "She accused me of holding a grudge," I said. "She said I was punishing her for childhood stuff." "Childhood stuff," Ethan repeated bitterly. "Is that what she's calling it now? She acts like it was just normal sibling fighting," I said. "Normal siblings don't try to give each other frostbite," Ethan said. "Normal siblings don't destroy each other's school projects or throw away Christmas presents. What she did to me wasn't normal, and I'm glad you recognize that." "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better," I said. "I was just a kid too, but I still feel like I should have done more." "Sophie, you saved my life," Ethan said firmly. "Literally and figuratively. Those weekends at your apartment were the only time I felt safe. You gave me a place where I could be myself without fear. You listened to me when no one else would. You made me feel like I was worth something." His words brought tears to my eyes. "You are worth something," I said. "You've always been worth something." "I know that now," Ethan said, "but I didn't know it then. If it weren't for you, I don't think I would have survived high school. I definitely wouldn't have had the confidence to leave for college." "You would have figured it out," I said. "You're stronger than you know." "Maybe," Ethan said, "but I didn't have to figure it out alone because you were there. And now you're protecting yourself the same way you protected me. I'm proud of you for saying no to Rose." "Thank you," I said. "That means everything to me." "Has she changed at all?" Ethan asked. "Has she ever shown any sign that she understands what she did?" "No," I said. "She still acts like she was the perfect sister and that you were just oversensitive." "Then you made the right choice," Ethan said. "People don't change unless they want to change, and Rose has never wanted to change. She's never even admitted that she did anything wrong." After we hung up, I felt more confident in my decision. Ethan's support meant everything to me, and his perspective helped me see the situation more clearly. Rose was not asking me for help as a reformed person who had learned from her mistakes. She was asking me for help as the same person who had tormented our brother for years and had never taken responsibility for her actions. Over the next few days, the pressure from my family intensified. My mother called me repeatedly, trying to convince me to change my mind. My father sent me text messages about the importance of family loyalty. Even my aunt and uncle, who had heard Rose's version of events, reached out to express their disappointment in my decision. "I don't understand why you're being so stubborn about this," my mother said during one of our phone conversations. "Rose needs help and you're her sister." "I am her sister," I said, "but that doesn't mean I have to let her live with me. She's been through a lot," my mother said. "The breakup with Derek was really hard on her." "I'm sure it was," I said. "But that doesn't change how she treated Ethan." "That was years ago," my mother said. "She was just a teenager then. People change." "Has she changed?" I asked. "Has she ever apologized to Ethan? Has she ever acknowledged that what she did was wrong?" My mother was quiet for a moment. "She doesn't need to apologize for normal sibling behavior," she said finally. "Mom, she locked him outside in the middle of winter," I said. "His hands were turning blue from the cold. How is that normal?" "You're exaggerating," my mother said. "It wasn't that bad." "I was there," I said. "I saw it happen. I was the one who found the key and let him back inside." "Rose was just disciplining him," my mother said. "He was being difficult." "He was 10 years old," I said. "He was playing quietly with his toys." "I don't want to rehash old arguments," my mother said. "The point is that Rose needs help now and you're being selfish." "I'm not being selfish," I said. "I'm protecting myself." "From what?" my mother asked. "From helping your sister." "From living with someone who has never shown remorse for years of cruelty," I said. from opening my home to someone who made my brother feel worthless and unloved. "You're being dramatic," my mother said, and I could hear the frustration in her voice. "Rose is a good person who made some mistakes when she was young. Good people don't make their little brothers cry themselves to sleep," I said. "Good people don't destroy school projects out of spite. Good people don't throw away Christmas presents. I'm not going to argue with you about this," my mother said, "but I want you to know that you're hurting Rose very badly. She's already going through a difficult time and your rejection is making it worse." "I'm sorry that she's hurting," I said. "But I can't be responsible for fixing her problems." "She's family," my mother said. "Family helps each other." "Where was that attitude when Ethan needed help?" I asked. "Where was the family loyalty when he was being tormented every day?" My mother hung up without answering my question. That evening I received a text message from Rose herself. It was long and emotional, full of accusations and pleas. She accused me of being cold and unforgiving. She said I was punishing her for things that had happened years ago. She claimed that she had always loved Ethan and that I was misremembering what had actually happened. "I was just trying to teach him how to be stronger," she wrote. "I was helping him prepare for the real world. If I was sometimes harsh, it was because I cared about him." This rewriting of history was exactly what I had expected from Rose. She had convinced herself that her cruelty had been kindness, that her abuse had been love. She genuinely seemed to believe that she had been helping Ethan by tearing him down. "I can't believe you're abandoning me when I need you most," her message continued. "I thought we were sisters. I thought family meant something to you." I read her message several times, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. Rose was hurting, and part of me did feel sorry for her, but I also knew that helping her would come at a cost to my own well-being and peace of mind. I thought about the life I had built for myself. My small apartment represented years of hard work and careful budgeting. It was clean and organized, filled with books and plants that brought me joy. It was a place where I felt safe and comfortable, where I could be myself without judgment or conflict. Opening my home to Rose would disrupt all of that. It would bring chaos and drama into my peaceful space. It would force me to relive painful memories every day and to confront the reality of what Rose had done to Ethan. It would compromise my mental health and my ability to function. I also thought about Ethan and how he would feel if I allowed Rose to stay with me. He had worked so hard to heal from the trauma of his childhood, and he had built a new life for himself far away from Rose's influence. If I supported Rose now, it would feel like a betrayal of everything I had done to protect him. Finally, I thought about Rose herself and whether helping her would actually be good for her. Rose had never been forced to confront the consequences of her behavior. Our parents had always enabled her actions and made excuses for her cruelty. If I allowed her to stay with me, I would be continuing that pattern of enabling. Maybe what Rose needed was not rescue but accountability. Maybe she needed to face the reality that actions have consequences and that the people she had hurt were not obligated to help her when she was in need. I decided not to respond to Rose's text message. There was nothing I could say that would change her mind or make her understand my perspective. She had made her choice years ago when she chose to be cruel to Ethan. Now I was making my choice to protect myself and to honor the memory of what she had done. The next few weeks were difficult. My family continued to pressure me, and I had to deal with guilt and doubt about my decision, but I also felt a sense of peace and clarity that I had not expected. I had drawn a boundary and defended it. I had chosen my own well-being over family pressure and social expectations. Ethan called me regularly during this time, offering support and encouragement. He reminded me that I had done the right thing and that I should not feel guilty for protecting myself. His support meant everything to me, and it reinforced my belief that I had made the correct choice. "You taught me that it's okay to walk away from people who hurt us," Ethan told me during one of our conversations. "You taught me that family doesn't give people the right to abuse us. Now you're applying that lesson to your own life." "I learned it from watching you," I said. "You were so brave to leave for college and to build a life away from her." "We both learned it the hard way," Ethan said, "but we learned it." Eventually, the pressure from my family began to decrease. Rose found somewhere else to stay, and the immediate crisis passed. Our parents remained disappointed in my decision, but they stopped calling me about it every day. Life returned to a new normal, one where I had a clearer understanding of my own boundaries and my own worth. Looking back on that time, I am grateful for the difficult decision I made. Saying no to Rose was not easy, but it was necessary. It protected my mental health, honored my relationship with Ethan, and sent a clear message that I would not enable abuse or cruelty. I learned that family loyalty does not mean accepting whatever treatment family members choose to give us. True loyalty means protecting the people we love from harm, even when that harm comes from other family members. It means standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult or unpopular. Rose never apologized to Ethan, and she never acknowledged the pain she had caused him. She moved on with her life, continuing to see herself as the victim in every situation. But Ethan thrived in his new environment, free from her influence and surrounded by people who treated him with kindness and respect. As for me, I continued to live in my small apartment, surrounded by the peace and safety I had worked so hard to create. I maintained my relationship with Ethan, and I built new friendships with people who shared my values of kindness and respect. I learned to trust my own judgment and to prioritize my own well-being. The experience taught me that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to say no. Sometimes protecting ourselves and the people we care about requires us to make difficult choices that others might not understand. But those choices are still worth making because they allow us to live with integrity and to build lives that reflect our values. Today, Ethan is doing well in his career and has built strong, healthy relationships. He is confident and happy, no longer the frightened little boy who used to cry himself to sleep. He has become the person he was always meant to be, free from the shadow of Rose's cruelty. And I am proud of both of us for having the courage to protect ourselves and each other. We learned that family should be a source of love and support, not pain and trauma. We learned that we deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, and that we have the right to walk away from people who cannot or will not treat us well. The story of Rose's request to stay with me was not really about housing or temporary arrangements. It was about accountability, boundaries, and the courage to protect ourselves from people who have hurt us. It was about recognizing that forgiveness does not require us to put ourselves in harm's way, and that loving someone does not mean accepting their abuse. I made the right choice that night when I told Rose no. It was a choice that honored my brother's pain, protected my own well-being, and sent a clear message about the kind of treatment I would and would not accept. It was a choice that allowed me to live with integrity and to build a life based on my own values rather than on other people's expectations. Sometimes the most important word we can learn to say is no. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to protect ourselves and the people we care about from harm. And sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is to stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult or unpopular. I am grateful for the lesson that Rose taught me, even though it was not the lesson she intended to teach. She taught me the importance of kindness, the value of protecting vulnerable people, and the necessity of drawing boundaries with those who would harm us. She taught me that family is not defined by blood but by love, respect, and mutual care. Most importantly, she taught me that I have the power to choose who I allow into my life and my home. I have the power to protect myself and the people I love. I have the power to say no when saying yes would compromise my values or my well-being. That power is a gift, and I will never take it for granted again.